Hello and welcome to the 3D Blu-ray Bunker. This is a place for us die-hard fans of 3D where we exclusively look at 3D Blu-rays, not to review the film, but to almost entirely focus on the quality of the 3D on offer, with just a short comment at the end about the film itself. And today we're looking at Dracula from 2012. This one's from the legendary Italian director Dario Argento. The aspect ratio is 2.39 to 1, and this film was natively shot in 3D. I always take the opening shot of a 3D film as a possible indicator of the quality of the 3D to follow, and in this case it's catastrophic, as the entire credit sequence has the left and right eye views transposed, which creates a horrible mess where the credits are sort of stuck somewhere in the middle or behind an inverted image. You can watch it correctly if you put your glasses on the wrong way around, and if you do that you'll find it's actually perfectly okay. Fortunately, after the credits, that gets sorted out and things are back as they should be. And the first giveaway sign that this film was shot natively is this scene, I think, in the woods, where you can see a level of detail in 3D around the leaves that post-converted films just can't achieve. And this is a nice and detailed 3D scene. On the other hand, one of the problems shooting natively is reflection conflicts, like the large table leg on the left of the screen here, which is the left eye view, because in the right eye view, that leg is much darker. And this is something that often happens with shiny black items, where one lens captures reflection off it and the other one doesn't, which tends to immediately draw attention to itself. So this film made several choices with props and costumes that were prone to this problem, like this shiny black piano and the girl's shiny black hair, or the nice shiny black jacket that Dracula's wearing here. All in all, this is really a minor issue, but it's noticeable, and it's probably the worst case of this that I've seen in a 3D film. Actually, the way this reveals itself on screen is the same as if you use that magic eye technique with those spot the difference puzzle pictures, when you let your eyes diverge a bit so that each eye is seeing a different image, and the differences when you do that immediately pop off the page. There's something similar going on here. For some reason, the flies in this shot only exist in the left eye view. They're just not there at all in the right eye, which is a bit odd. They look great in this shot, though, where there's a load of separation and depth in between them. And there's also a fly in this shot. It's something you might not immediately see in a 2D view of the scene, but in 3D it would jump right off the screen, which is what it does in this scene. This same shot has another one of the film's odd little problems, which is that the steam, very digital steam, is clearly going behind the pillars and Jonathan Harker there, but it's placed in 3D space in front of them. Just a little mistake, but 3D errors like this really do tend to stand out. Anyway, on to some positives, the first of which is that virtually the entire film is very obviously in 3D, right from that inverted credit sequence onwards. I only spotted 2 or 3 2D shots in the film, one of which is this one, which they pretty much fool you into thinking it's 3D, and it's not the only film to do this, but they place the flat image at a depth behind the screen, so that at first glance it looks like it's 3D, and the shot's over before you really get to notice that it wasn't. This window shot, though, is 2D, and it's placed bang on the level of the screen. But I think it's the only properly flat shot in the whole film. So then, on to the good stuff, and the good stuff here is pretty much everything that I haven't mentioned already. This film really delivers both loads of depth and loads of pop-out. If you like the latter, a few examples are this owl, which is sensibly shown in slow motion to give the shot a chance to be enjoyed, which is something they do with several of the pop-out moments here, unlike a lot of films where it only lasts a few frames. This bag hanging down when they're testing out the gallows really pops, as does the obvious and obligatory but very welcome shot of the standard vampire killing tool, and they're sensible enough here to show the stake coming out of the victim's back rather than showing the traditional view of it being plunged in. Or you've got this fella brandishing a stick at us, and since he's holding it rather than throwing it, the thing's on screen long enough for the effect to work. If someone's got a gun in a 3D film, then you really do have to include this shot, which is done nicely as it comes away out of the screen. There's this thrown sword, which is a moment that only lasts a few frames, but then we see it sticking out of the door. It's nice and stationary for a good moment. So the negative parallax bits are varied and very well done, but it's not all gimmicks here. All in all, I think the compositions in this film are fantastically arranged for a great sense of depth. They've really put thought into most of the scenes, staging them in a way that's being really sympathetic to the third dimension. You can see they do things with trees quite a bit, lots of it's set in the woods, all of which not only are well done for having things spread across the z-axis, but they also photograph it in sufficiently strong 3D to help it look really good. These are just a few examples of the excellent composition throughout the film, and I think you can clearly see from these 2D shots what I'm talking about, the way they've very intentionally framed scenes to show large amounts of depth, and it's always really pleasing when staging like this is done for the interior shots as well as the exteriors. I guess having a castle setting with its huge rooms allows for this, but they've certainly put the effort in to keep the 3D interesting. I really like this shot, not just for its nice 3D composition, but I really like its 2D composition too. It's like an oil painting, and it's obviously a good thing that great shots are used in what are meant to be emotional moments like this. The framing of the much-loved Rutger Hauer here is very nicely done for 3D, even if the stones in the foreground do look a bit, as they often do in this film, like they're made of polystyrene. There's a shot that I always mention when a film does it because I've always liked it, and it's this low-to-the-ground view, done exactly like they have here, a flat plane stretching out into the background. It's really nice and strong. There's a fantastic shot of Dracula's library here, which has masses of depth to it, and I think it's the shot that I like most in the film. It's so deep, and it's got a really nice symmetry to it as well. There's only one really hyper-stereo view in the film. It's used a couple of times and it isn't actually what it first appears to be. The clouds here are placed a long way behind the castle, but the shot is held long enough for you to realise that actually the castle and all of the foreground trees are in fact on the same flat plane. So it's not as good as it could have been, but on their limited budget, I guess, it's good that they at least try to do something to add some extreme depth here. There are a couple of moments where the 3D looks like it's noticeably ramped up to wider than human vision view for a really good reason. So you got in this shot, Mina is waking up from a nightmare, and the extreme depth of the shot is something that I regard as a genuinely creative and noteworthy artistic shot. It's something that 3D I think deserves more recognition and appreciation of. It's absolutely effective in conveying the extremity of the situation. Same goes for this shot in the aftermath of a particularly brutal moment. Yes, that is a severed head on the floor there. And again, the extreme depth in the shot is significant in amplifying the drama of the moment. I suppose that's a good time to mention that there is quite a bit of squirting blood in this film, and there's also a fair bit of this sort of thing, so if seeing voluptuous naked women isn't something you're keen on, you should probably give this one a miss. It's something that always amuses me is that photography was pioneered in, I think, around the late 1820s, and by the 1850s, 3D nude photography was getting popular. Actually, I'm surprised it took them that long. Anyway, if you are a fan of this sort of thing, then be assured that I've been a little bit coy about the timing of the screen grab here. So, just to be clear, this film features large, naked, three-dimensional breasts. Just a little warning there. So anyway, I think the 3D in this film overall is very good. It's mostly high-quality stuff, albeit from a pretty cheap film. What would be really great, though, is if the film itself was any good. The people marketing it certainly don't seem to think it is, as the German quote on the cover of the Blu-ray translates, according to Google, as an intoxicating hyper-trash experience. This film is not very well regarded at all, and for several very good reasons. I mean, obviously, it's a load of old cobblers. The acting is mostly a bit shaky, the CGI is well below TV standard, there's a bit with a praying mantis that's utterly risible, and I think that it really suffers from that curse of 21st century filmmaking, which is the clean digital look that seems far more out of place in a film like this. I think the look of the film would be massively improved if it had been shot on grainy film stock, which would have sat nicely alongside its sort of 1970s look, because the lighting, locations and colours I think are all really good, but on the plus side I suppose the clean and bright digital look is good for the 3D. One of the complaints about it that really doesn't bother me at all is the liberties it takes with Bram Stoker's original story, but that's surely not a problem with a story that's been filmed possibly more times than any other novel. Another plus is that it's got the great Rutger Hauer, of course, in it as Van Helsing. Not that he's especially great here, but even so, he's still Rutger Hauer. I'm going to come out on this one and admit that I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Approaching it as a cheesy take on the vampire story, I found it to be perfectly watchable. And perhaps similarly showing my dodgy tastes, I also really liked the Claudio Simonetti end credit song, which is a sort of Within Temptation-esque number called Kiss Me Dracula. And the Blu-ray actually includes the 3D music video for this, which has some incredibly strong 3D in it, and it's definitely definitely worth a look. So it's a film that's pretty much unknown to the mainstream moviegoer, it's shunned by Bram Stoker fans, it's disliked by horror fans, and it's hated by Dario Argento fans who see it as a major fall from grace for him. So who's left to like it? Well, I say we are, a small band of loyal 3D fans, because this has a lot of great 3D, and I think with the right approach you can have plenty of fun with this film. So that's a definite recommendation for your collection then. So I hope you found this in some way useful, and if so, I hope you'll join me again soon for another 3D Blu-ray review. Until then, thanks for looking in on this one, cheers for now, bye bye.